Hello, my name is Cody Cook, and this is my assignment for Defining Success assignment for ENTR 2200 A10. In this assignment, I will first start by telling you who I am. I'm currently a business student at KPU, and I currently have the goal of finding the answer to the present problem. The problem, as I've been dealing with in assignments 1, 2, and 3, is are nurses tired and overworked? So to start, we have to figure out if we're going to effectively solve the problem. The first step is defining it. So my approach to solving the problem was I took a rational model approach to try and find the answer using hard facts and input from multiple sources. I tried to find a clear solution and try to build with alternative solutions and anything else that can be used from different sources in order to get the most complete and effective answer to this problem. So when I initially set out, my goal was to have a immediate fix, something to start, not necessarily to deal with the problem, but necessarily just to deal with the symptoms, and then followed up by a medium and a long-term solution so that this problem would be either completely eradicated or would be something that is less common. So now on to the evaluation. I wanted to try and find a few different solutions and try and pull the best that I could from these solutions to form one that would work best overall. Either if it's a combination or just three distinct ideas that could be wrapped into one. Even if they fought each other, I wanted to try and find a way that would allow at least a structured, immediate, medium, and long-term fix. So, as we talked about earlier, there was input from multiple sources and different viewpoints, and I wanted to pick from the factual best choices, something that would be tested and would be very easy to see that yes, this has fixed our problem, or no, this is actually not fixing our problem and is either costing a lot of money or is a waste of time and resources. And then an important factor is also being able to implement them in a timely uh, manner. Uh, so now, finally, onto the top three choices or the overall choices that I've decided from my decision matrix that I will talk about a little bit more later. Was the best overall scored answers. So the first one was to streamline nurses' work by removing admin. This would be removing some of the stress and the distractions that admin work can cause nurses to pull them away from their patients and clients that they need to take care of. So allowing them to not be split between two different kinds of work, but instead focusing entirely on one. The goal behind this would be to take some of the stress from too many different jobs on the nurses and instead allow them to just focus on one and have another team handle or another group of people handle the admin work, or at least most of the admin work. Second one would have been more time off for nurses. So this one is a little bit different in the fact that it directly would allow nurses to have some more time off, in the sense that vacations could be extended, you could have fewer hours. There would be a couple different ways that it could be assessed and used to try and allow nurses overall to have more time to decompress between shifts and between their working times. And the third one was to offer support groups and counselors to the nurses. So this could either be such as support groups where the nurses could talk to each other and share their experiences, or it could also be in one-on-one therapy style sessions where nurses could talk about the stresses of work and allow them to get quote unquote things off their chest to allow them to feel more free and liberated from their work. So to just quickly talk about each of the options, as I said earlier, the streamlining of the nurses' work and removing the admin stuff would allow them for more focused patient care and remove many or most of the admin and paperwork from the job and will allow them to be more client focused. Another team or another department would have to take up a lot of the admin work. In the cases where the admin work couldn't be removed, then it would need to be moved somewhere else. The second one, as I talked about, more time off to allows nurses to recoup from work and would also make it a more attractive job to get more nurses to join. This would instead be a longer term approach in the fact that more time off is nice for a lot of nurses to have, but to get nurses to actually join would take likely many years for the training and the overall requirement for nurses to get to this level where they can operate in hospitals to be met. This one is definitely a longer term solution, as it'll be likely expensive to offer more time off and or vacation, and would be tough to organize, as with fewer nurses working, there would need to be somebody to also support patients and clients in that. And the support group one, as I talked about, would be either in group or in solo situations. Can be offered for free, as many groups would want to support nurses and help. The therapy sessions may have to be paid for or brought through insurance, but those are options. Now, the overall thing would all of these, if you applied all three of them, would they work? Um, well, I found that once they were all applied, they likely wouldn't accomplish the goal of removing nurses from being tired and exhausted from their work. Um, with all three of these combined, the time off, the removing of the admin work is more medium term focused, and the support groups could be likely started up quite quickly. However, most of them will be focused on that medium and long term. As I talked about too, the first two, the time off and the removing of admin work, would be much more effective, as it allows the majority of the time for nurses to be focused on patient and client care, versus the support groups would be dependent on how many people and nurses would actually take up that work and that extra support group. I wouldn't have solid numbers for that, but as time off and vacations would be mandatory, um, that one would absolutely have an immediate uh, impact on all of the nurses, in the sense that all of them would feel it, versus the support groups might take some more time to have adoption. Now, would they address the root cause of the issue? Well, the streamlining with the admin removing would definitely create a less stressful environment, with them being able to focus on just their job. The more time off would provide nurses more decompression and more relaxing time, so that when they come back to work, they would not be as stressed overall. And as I talked about before, the support groups and the one-on-one sessions could help in a few occasions, but it doesn't necessarily address the root cause, in the sense that the nurses are tired from their work. It's too strenuous when they're on work, or they don't have enough time to recoup after the work. The support groups would still have those first two things happening, but it would the support groups would only uh, fight the effects, not necessarily the symptoms. You would still have nurses coming into the profession still feeling tired, still feeling overworked. Now, to recoup and to bring it all together at the end, how would we see that it works? Well, we'd have to do check-ins with the corresponding parties every few weeks and months. So asking nurses how they feel after these changes have been brought in, and asking those that they interact with also if they've noticed any changes, such as doctors or other supporting staff. Um, I would deem this a success if the majority of the nurses are no longer exhausted from their work overall. So once the filing and the admin work has been moved to different departments, if that immediately causes less stress overall, I would see that as dealing with the root cause. Or if the time off, you just generally feel a better mood and less exhaustion in the workplace, I would consider that overall a success and it dealt with the root cause.